in our gathering time.
Good morning. Good morning. Welcome to Chalice Unitarian Universalist Congregation. We are a community of diverse beliefs and experiences, nurturing the liberal religious spirit, united by our desire to grow in love and in service. Whoever you are, whomever you love, whatever your life's journey, you are welcome here. Whether you gather with us every Sunday, once or twice a year, or if you're here with us for the first time this morning, we are glad you are here. I'm David Peel, the worship associate today. Our pulpit guest this morning is the Reverend Kathleen Owens, and more on her in just a moment. Our worship musician this morning is Mr. Tim McKnight, and we have two song leaders this morning, Callie Leaf and Debbie Street-Idell. Our tech team is Hope Campbell and Jake Diock, and our greeters at the table this morning were Wendy Metzger-Key and Debbie Retzler. Today we welcome Reverend Kathleen Owens to lead us in one of our occasional pulpit guest services. The theme of our service this morning is faithful living in the aftermath. Yeah. Reverend Owens is a retired parish minister who served two congregations before serving at First UU Church in San Diego for 14 years. She received her Masters of Divinity from the Starr King School of Ministry in 2004. She lives with her wife Jan in San Diego and enjoys writing, reading, traveling, and cooking. She also volunteers with two nonprofits. One serves refugees and one works to combat Islamophobia. Our minister, Reverend Sharon Wiley, will return to the pulpit next week on November 24th. Welcome to our Sunday service. Welcome to those of you here in the chapel, and welcome to those of you watching live on Zoom. For those of us here in the chapel, please feel free to wear a mask. Or if you feel like it, step outside as you want for whatever makes you comfortable. If you step outside, you'll still be able to hear what's going on in here thanks to the speakers on the courtyard. If you're sitting in a row that is not full, could you please scoot towards the walls so that the people who, I've lost my space here, if you're, who may be arriving in the next several minutes will be able to find a seat. We want to make it easy and quick for them to find that seat when they do get here. We are always delighted to see the newcomers joining us in this worship. And as a newcomer, you might be interested in the various groups and activities we have to offer. And you can find those in our email newsletter and our e-news calendar online. Online newcomers, you will receive an email invitation to join our email list after the service. And in-person newcomers, if you haven't already given us your email when you signed in at the table, please think about sharing it with us at the social hour afterward before you head home. That weekly email and the online stuff is a really good way to find out about all the activities we have to offer here at Chalice. Now let's take a breath together. As we settle our souls into worship, we acknowledge Indigenous peoples with these words from Robin Wall Kimmerer, a citizen of the Potawatomi Nation and the author of Braiding Sweetgrass, Indigenous Wisdom, Scientific Knowledge, and the Teachings of Plants. Even a wounded world is feeding us. Even a wounded world holds us, giving us moments of wonder and joy. I choose joy over despair, not because I have my head in the sand, but because joy is what the earth gives me daily, and I must return the gift. Now we light our chalice, the symbol of our Unitarian Universalist faith. I'd like to invite Jessica Miller to light our chalice this morning. Our chalice lighting words this morning are an adaptation of a chalice lighting by Douglas Traversa. You've heard this before. It's entitled, In a World Troubled by Hate. Hate is the emotional equivalent of junk food. Digest that for a moment. Hate is the emotional equivalent of junk food. It's effortlessly easy, quick, and mindless. Like junk food, hate delivers a short burst of gratification. And like junk food, it has no lasting value. Addictive, it nourishes nothing. Hate is a wasting disease of the mind, and with it, the body and the soul. In a world troubled by the darkness of hate, let us shine the steadfast light of love. In a world troubled by the darkness of despair, may we protect and nurture the light of hope. In a world troubled by the darkness of ignorance, let us illuminate that darkness with the light of reason. We light this chalice that represents the light and love that nourishes each of us.
It is a joy to be with you this morning. I am so grateful for Sharon's invitation. Rebecca Parker's words call us into worship this morning. Even when our hearts are broken by our own failure or the failure of others cutting into our lives, even when we have done all we can and life still feels broken, there is a universal love that has never broken faith with us and never will. Welcome to worship this morning.
Our hymn of the month for November is number 315 in the Gray Hymnal, This Old World. We're singing this hymn every Sunday this month to help us know the hymn and feel more comfortable singing it. Please rise in body or spirit to join in singing.
Our Sunday worship is the shared spiritual practice of our community, and we tend to the congregation during this time by sharing and honoring our joys and sorrows. Here in the chapel, you are welcome to write your joy or sorrow onto a candle card. And if you didn't pick one up at the greeters table on your way in, we'll pass one out to you in a moment and collect it from you when you're ready. Online, please write your joy or sorrow, including your name, into the chat box. These joys and sorrows will be spoken out loud here during the service, and then we will remove this part of the service from the recording that goes to our YouTube channel, so this sharing won't be made publicly available. If you would like to send Reverend Sharon a confidential note about your joy or sorrow, or to make a prayer request, please email her, and her email will be on the screen in a moment. Please enjoy some of Tim's music while you write down what you would like to share, so that in the sharing, your burden is lessened and your joy is multiplied. we light a final candle for all the joys and sorrows that go unshared and unspoken this morning. These too are held in the love and support of this community. Now we invite the children and anybody else who would like to come up and forward for a story.
Our story is called The Circles All Around Us, written by Brad Montague, illustrations by Brad and Christy Montague. We begin by drawing a circle on the ground along each shoe. A safe little place for just one person. Nobody in this circle but you. You could keep that circle closed to everyone but yourself, but that would be like a library with just one book on the shelf. So let's draw a bigger circle for you and your family to share. Now you see what all can happen in a circle full of care. It becomes a happier circle as more loved ones come to stay. And wouldn't it be even better if all your friends could come and play? So you stretch and draw your circle even bigger than it's been, and let a few more people know they're welcome to come in. In the circles all around us, everywhere that we all go, there's a difference we can make and a love we can all show. Yet there are still so many outside the circle who are different in all they do. Though it feels slightly uncomfortable, we draw a bigger circle for them too. It doesn't mean the circle is easy. It can get harder the more we share. But wonderful things can happen when love is known and felt everywhere. As time passes, our eyes open. We see others we really care for. And that's when we ask ourselves, well, what's this circle really there for? So let us create bigger circles all around us for the rest of our days. Let our caring ripple out in a million little ways. In the circles all around us, everywhere that we all go, there's a difference we can make and a love we can all show. As our circles grow and grow, and we watch them wonder-eyed, remember the first circle started with just the love you hold inside.
As the children leave for their classes, please join in singing. Walk on your path with a song so sweet, that everywhere you go there is love all around. Walk on your path with a song so sweet, that everywhere you go there is love all around.
As mentioned earlier, our pulpit guest this morning is Reverend Kathleen Owens. She's a retired parish minister who served 2 congregations before serving the First Church downtown for 14 years. As mentioned earlier, she got her Masters of Divinity from Starr King School for the Ministry in 2004. She enjoys writing, reading, traveling, and cooking, and volunteers with 2 nonprofits.
Our reading this morning is a responsive reading, so you have a part, But don't worry, you only have one line. So your one line is, no one is outside the circle of love. So I'll repeat it and then maybe you'll repeat it back. No one is outside the circle of love. No one is outside the circle of love. You're great. And when your line comes, I'll just motion with my hand. We know that hurt moves through the world, perpetuated by action, inaction, and indifference. Our values call us to live in the reality of the heartbreak of our world, remembering that no one is outside the circle of love. We who are Unitarian Universalists not only affirm the inherent worth and dignity of every person, we also affirm the inherent wholeness of every being, despite apparent brokenness. No one is outside the circle of love. We know that things break or break down. Promises, friendship, sobriety, hope, communication. This breaking happens because our human hearts and our very institutions are frail and imperfect. We make mistakes. Life is messy. No one is outside the circle of love. With compassion as our guide, we seek the well-being of all people. We seek to dismantle systems of oppression that undermine our collective humanity. We believe that we're here to guide one another toward love. No one is outside the circle of love. So that's a pretty tall order you just read. That no one is outside the circle of love. We Unitarian Universalists are called by love and wisdom to try our best in each day we have to live out that truth, that no one is outside the circle of love. And that's hard. But it's part of our Universalist heritage. And in our divided country, after such an election, I have to think about that sometimes. I'm still experiencing grief and disbelief at times. And there are mornings I wake before the alarm and I think, really? We're gonna do this again? Watching your service last week and Reverend Sharon's message was such a good reminder that we have been in hard times before and we've made it through and can again. And this time we know it's going to take even more effort. I appreciated her call for self-care and to do what we can to help people who are experiencing homelessness, to work for climate justice, to build up our schools, and to keep on loving our neighbors. When I was invited to preach and I looked at the date, I thought of this title, Faithful Living in the Aftermath, because regardless of how the election turned out, I thought it would be fitting. And it only became truer after Election Day. This title is what we are supposed to do now more than ever. So here we are, living in the now, and an important question is, how do you want to live? David's words while lighting the chalice offered us a choice we have to make every day between hate or the light of caring and love. Now let me say here, I am angry about the election results. And I am more than angry, I am deeply frightened about the possibilities that abound with the incoming new administration and the cabinet choices we know so far. Choosing to lean into the light doesn't mean that I don't have a lot of mixed up feelings inside me, but it does mean that I'm not going to be ruled by them or give in to them. Pondering the choice between hate and light, reflecting back on our history, as a people, we are pretty darn good in living in the aftermath of some horrible tragedies. During the pandemic, I was in a book group with people who read and discussed Rebecca Solnit's book, A Paradise Built in Hell. And in that book, she's trying to answer the question of what it will be like to live not on this planet as we know it now, but on the very tumultuous one that we are creating. And her research took her through the history of natural disasters, and what she found was that people often created remarkable temporary communities, paradises in the rubble, where people acting on their own without direction from authorities managed to provide for one another. And we see it happening today when wildfires burst, hurricanes come, and earthquakes erupt. For most people, in times of crisis, it's as if our best, the best of who we are, comes to the foreground with our values of community and care and generosity. And those values spur us on to offer what we can and help as we're able. And in that coming together, there is hope. Friendships can form. And what is normally intangible becomes tangible. The truth that we are not alone. The truth that together we make it through. Now, this congregation has a reputation in our cluster of being one that knows music and sings. And it's a wonderful practice. And it strengthens our ability to care. It strengthens our hearts and our bonds with one another when we sing together. And when I am in need of strengthening, I often will sing or listen to a wide variety of songs. One singer-songwriter, Carrie Newcomer, has some lyrics that say, "Sometimes there is no reason, the moon waxes and wanes. It was the 100-year-old flood and you were in the way. Some things we find in daylight and are grateful to know, but some things we only learned when we had to go where we did not want to go. I can't tell you that it will all turn out fine, but I know there is help in hard times." We all need that reminder. Now, one would think that after such an experience where we helped or were helped, when we experienced shared gratitude and felt that interconnection deeply inside, one would think that that experience would stay with us and inform our choices and decisions when life returned to normal. And maybe for some it did, but I have to admit, sometimes I can be a slow learner. When the pandemic hit, my wife and I did the best we could. We shopped for others whose health was fragile and they couldn't shop. We donated and masked and kept our distance to keep ourselves and others safe. But in the isolation, I admit that my fears of what could happen next grew inside of me. And so it was easy for me when I went shopping to buy just a little more than we needed each and every time. And I did it because of fear. Because I waited in an hour just to get into the store doors. I knew that supply chains were being disrupted and empty shelves were popping up. So I bought a little more than we needed, and I began storing it all in a box in my closet. The values of care and share and generosity that I had became muted because of fear, because I was determined that we would not go without. It wasn't until the vaccines came out that my attitude and fears began to ease and soften. And one day I was putting laundry away in my closet and I saw that box of extra food and realized two things. One, that box wasn't gonna really last very long if the shelves really were empty. It wasn't gonna happen. And the other thing that I noticed was that if the worst had happened, the only way we were gonna get through and survive would be with the help from others, because we always and only stand in this together. Salvation is a communal effort. So here we are. As Sharon said last week, we're in another time of a different kind of disaster. Uncertainty abounds, but this time I don't want to give in to my worst fears. Instead, I'm trying to live consciously and deliberately from my values. Now, I know I can experience and feel my fear and my grief, and I do, but I don't want those to direct my actions or isolate me from others. Now, more than ever, as our bodies, minds, and spirits will allow, we need to be with each other, sing with each other, build relationship, and then engage in discussions about what might be next and our role in it. We want to live lives where our values of interdependence and love are visible in tangible ways. While acknowledging fear, we can also remember that we are so much more than that, and that we can choose love and truth and steadfastness. The coming months will be the most challenging. Are you thinking now about how you're going to thrive within the new federal administration? I know I'm finding ways to balance being informed without being overwhelmed or scared witless. And that's going to be critical to find that balance. Reaching out and joining with organizations that share our values will mean getting out of the comfort of my small circle and choosing to enlarge it. My wife and I pushed ourselves to go out on Tuesday night after dark down to the center in Hillcrest for a gathering. There was a whole coalition of various groups and organizations sharing their work and pledging their cooperation with each other so that all people's rights and dignities were honored. Norma Chavez Peterson, the executive director of the ACLU of San Diego and Imperial Counties, proclaimed that this is the time for intersectionality. This is no time for silos or individualism. Salvation is a collective effort. So on a personal level, I am changing up my reading list and focusing on biographies of ancestors who have lived through crisis, upheaval, and oppression and survived. I want to take in their lessons and see how they might play out in our time now. I plan on spending a little bit of time every day outside so I might notice the larger world around me, not the one stuck in my head. And I'll be returning to my meager meditation practice in the hopes of strengthening that practice, calming my mind, and focusing on loving kindness. Our congregations can also help our individual lives. Our congregations have mission statements and a vision of a world made better. And when I think about the coming days, I want my own mission statement and my own vision for how I want to be in this world to be in alignment with our values. And so that has me asking some questions. I am starting to ask every morning, what will love have me do today? Or what does truth need me to do or say? How am I going to respond to the oncoming suffering of people who are poor or people who are transgender? Which organizations am I going to support when immigrants and migrants are caught up in dehumanizing policies? One day, this coming difficult time will end. And when it does, I want to be able to say, I answered yes by answering love's call. You see, I am not interested in blaming, shaming, or otherizing people who didn't vote like I did or didn't vote at all. Demonizing and otherizing people will not make it any easier for us to join together, see the common ground that we share, so that all of our lives can thrive. This doesn't mean it doesn't mean that I accept or submit to abuses of power, not at all. It does mean that I want to cultivate a way of seeing others as companions and not threats to my safety. For this to happen, I'm going to have to pray and meditate regularly to keep a clear mind and a good mental health. I'm going to keep going to the gym to keep my body strong so that I have energy for the work ahead. It's going to require more effort than I want to put out, but it will also open me to the joy, the curiosity, and the relationships that are yet to come, as well as a way to feel frustration. Hello. Oh, this walkie-talkie? Okay. Can I give it to somebody? Thanks. There's something coming up after the service you're all going to want to know, and that walkie-talkie is going to be important. I plan on marching whenever I have the strength and ability to do so. Now, some people think these peaceful protests and marching are not worth anything. We're just preaching to the choir. Well, first, let me say the choir needs preaching to, because it energizes the choir and they sing better. But marching and peaceful protests, it's the only way we have to show the people in power that we are paying attention, that we are keeping track, and that we will respond. Showing up however you can makes a difference. Another favorite song of mine by newcomers says, "The shadows of this world will say, there's no hope, why try anyway? But every kindness, large or slight, shifts the balance toward the light." We know the impossible will just take a little more time, but we can do this. We can do hard things because we do them together. Back in the first administration of the incoming president, my book group read the book by Timothy Snyder on tyranny, and he offers this: do not obey in advance. Don't give in. Stand out, be visible, believe in truth, and practice corporeal politics, by which he means be in public, take a stand with others, make eye contact, and say hello to strangers on the street, in the coffee shop, or in the store. Be calm and be as courageous as you can. I was reading a new book by Nick Bryant, a former BCC foreign correspondent who was in our country, And his book, The Forever War, America's Unending Conflict with Itself, is hard to read because he points out, shines a light on some of our past that we either don't know or don't pay attention to, and our prevalence for violence and our unwillingness to address the systemic racism and oppression, especially towards Black Americans. And he shows in his book how our past is always influencing our present day. But in the prologue, he read and pointed out something I had forgotten. It's essential that we need to be faithfully engaged in this time. And it came from Amanda Gorman's 2021 inaugural poem, The Hill We Climb. In that most powerful and beautiful poem, Ms. Gorman told the truth of who we have been, are, and still can be. She said, where can we find light in this never-ending shade? That's how she starts that poem. And then she reminds us that we've weathered and witnessed a nation that isn't broken, but simply unfinished. And that we close the divide because we know to put our future first and our differences aside. That if we are to live up to our own time, then victory will not lie in the blade, but in all the bridges that we have made. That is the promised glade, the hill we climb, if only we dare it. Because America is more than a pride we inherit. It's the past we step into and how we repair it. She says that while democracy can be periodically delayed, it can never be permanently defeated. So if we merge mercy with might and might with right, then legacy, love becomes our legacy. The question, where can we find light in this never-ending shade? At the end, she writes, there is always light, if only we are brave enough to see it, if only we are brave enough to be it. May we be the light we need. Amen.
Please rise in body or spirit and sing together hymn number 6, Just As Long As I Have Breath, found in the gray hymnal.
Still
The Sunday offering is an expression of the generosity that makes our congregational life possible. The Buddha said that no true spiritual life is possible without a generous heart. Generosity allies itself with an inner feeling of abundance, the feeling that we have enough to share. We encourage you to text your donation to Chalice. If you haven't texted a donation before, once you text the amount, you'll get a reply with a link to enter your credit card information. If your Sunday donation is meant to be part of your annual pledge, please be sure to indicate pledge after the dollar amount. And the phone number for text donations will be on screen in a moment. If you prefer to make an in-person donation of that paper type stuff, there's a box over there with the envelopes by the door, and you can leave that in the box on your way out of the service. Please give generously. Please join in dedicating our offering with words of affirmation. Chalice you, congregation. Our mission is to connect through worship, music, learning, and caring ministries. Prayer is adapted from a prayer by Kathleen McTeague. In this sacred place, we bring our hunger for awakening. We bring compassionate hearts and a will towards justice. In this sacred place, we bring the courage to talk on after hard losses. Into this sacred place, we bring our joy and gratitude for ordinary blessings. By gathering, we bless this place. Because we have been here together, may we know ourselves blessed and ready for whatever courageous action we can offer this hurting and beautiful world.
Please rise in body or spirit as we sing together hymn number 1028, The Fire of Commitment, found in the teal hymnal.
Our closing words come from Corey Allen, an author, podcast host, musician, and meditation teacher. Be the person who radiates calm. Heal your mind. Let go of attachments that trigger tension. Trust how you feel. Know your worth. And release into this moment. Move through life knowing that all this is temporary, so you're going to lead with love, compassion, and clarity. Then watch how your energy helps other people feel that way too. May it be so. Peace be to each of you. You're invited to close our time together by singing the well, but first, we're going to do the announcements now because there's going to be a fire drill after the well. The announcements. Did we have anything other? There was one other, yes, there it is.